I saw an article a while back that I was reading, and then there's a post about it, like a social post that I saw too, and it was talking about Easter. And the argument was, like, why do we post about Easter? Why do we invite people? It's not like no one knows, right? Like when you get a new iPhone, like Easter is just put in your calendar, right? When you type out Good Friday in your phone, Apple capitalizes it for you. Right, like these dates, it's almost like sometimes like the Good Fridays and the Easters and the Christmases, we kind of think that we're trying to tell people or like show people a date or invite them to something. They don't know what's going on. Everybody knows about Easter. Even complete strangers, if you go through Starbucks, say Happy Easter. It's just a phrase that we say. It's just kind of a cultural thing. Oh, it's Easter, Happy Easter. And the article or the video went on to say this: we don't need to tell people it's Easter. We need to remind them why it matters. That's the argument that we're in. Not just telling people it's Easter. We know it's Easter. But why does Easter matter? Was the death of Jesus not enough? One theological argument that's been going on for some centuries now is, did Jesus need to die? We talk a lot about Good Fridays and the death of Jesus, and that gets a lot of airtime or focus. But today we have come not just to celebrate the death of Jesus, we've come to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, that though our God hung between two thieves, though he was laid in the tomb, he did not stay there. And today we are celebrating the most historical and monumentous day in human history. So much so, friend, I love talking to atheists or those that don't believe Jesus lived at all. I'm like, what year is it? Like, oh, it's the year 2025. Where did you get that date from? And why do we call it AD and BC? The man split time in half. The man, we've been counting since he left. Like, what year is it? Well, it's been like 8 years since that dude left. Well, let's just call it year 8 then. The man Jesus today that we are celebrating, that I'd like to lay some thoughts on your lap about not just the dead Jesus or the buried Jesus, but the resurrected Jesus. On why, even if you're here today, you're like, bro, I'm just here so my mom doesn't get mad at me at brunch today. My sister said, if you don't come, no food for you after church. So I don't know how or why you got in this room. Maybe your girlfriend was like, if you didn't do Easter with me, we are breaking up. And you're like, fine, I'll go to Easter with you. Good old manipulation. So I don't know how or why you got in this room today. But I'd like to submit and lay some things on your lap on why the resurrected Jesus should matter to you. We're going to read today out of John chapter 11. And it's a very long chapter. It's 45 verses. We're not going to read all 45, don't worry. But we're going to walk our way through this amazing chapter. And I want to bring out 4 specific phrases today that I want you to see on why the resurrection matters. We have been on a series for those of you that come to the Rose every weekend for 7 weeks now called I Am. We've been walking through the I Ams of Jesus. And today we have finally got to I Am the resurrection. John 11 verse 1. It'll be on the screen for you. You can follow along. And I know, again, this is a big room and maybe the back you're a long ways from me, but you're allowed to say amen. Don't leave me up here by myself. All right. Also, I haven't seen some of you since last Easter. And I don't know who told you that you can never come back. You have to wait till next Easter. That's a lie. You can come back to church next week. It is allowed, okay? So I would love to see you next weekend. Just kidding. You told them. You told them I was there. John chapter 11, verse 1. I want you to see 4 phrases today. Look at John 11, verses 1. It says, now a man named Lazarus was sick, for he was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary who was a brother of Jesus, now lay sick, was the one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. Verse 3, so the sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, look at this, Lord, the one you love is sick. When he heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death. No, it is for the glory of God, for the God's Son that may be glorified through this. Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister Mary and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. And then he said to his disciples, let us go back to Judea. Let's stop there. So Jesus is with his disciples. He's in another city. He's next to Judea. He is outside Bethany. Jesus' best friends outside the 12 disciples are Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. He spent a considerable amount of time with these three individuals at their home. He was eating there. He was there a lot. It was one of the main places throughout the Gospels we found Jesus. These are his closest friends. And these sisters, Mary and Martha, which are famous from a few different stories, they know where Jesus is. He's in a town next door, and they know where he is, and they send word, hey, go tell Jesus that our brother's dying. This translation says that Lazarus was sick. Another translation says that Lazarus was dying. So they find Jesus, and they send word, and I want you to look at one phrase today that had just jumped out to me as I was studying this text. Look what it says. They find Jesus, and look what they say in verse 3. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. Notice how they appeal to Jesus. They do not say, hey, Jesus, remember how much Lazarus loves you. Hey, Jesus, remember how much we love you. Jesus, we love you. We followed you. We love you so much. Jesus, would you do a miracle on our behalf because of how much we love you? They don't say, Jesus, you know how much Lazarus loved you, so he deserves a miracle. Notice how they appeal to the heart of Jesus. Hey, Jesus, the one you love is sick. The first thing the resurrection does is the resurrection reminds me or shows me how loved I am. Friend, I'd like to submit to you, I think for many Christians in the room, we're trying to act and live off how much you love Jesus. Well, Jesus, I need this job and I really love you. Jesus, I need you to step in with my wife because, God, you know how much I love you. Can I appeal to you today that we should stop going to God's throne and reminding him how much we love him? Because your Christianity and your faith should not be based on how much you love him. Because your love is fickle, and your love is faint, and your love is distant, and your love is emotional. We should appeal to the heart of God how they appeal to the heart of God and say, God, you know how much you love him. I want to be reminded today, and I want you to be reminded today, the resurrection shows me, and it should show you how much you are loved. Not just how much you love him, but he loves you. What's amazing in chapter 11, verses 1 to 7, they start with, Jesus, our Lord, the one you love is sick. That word love, now again, you and I use one English word called love, but in the Greek language, there's 4 different words for love. There is love, like sexual love, romantic love. That's one word for love in the Greek. And then there is like, I love sports, or I love nature, or I love that. There's a different love for inanimate objects that you can love. And then there's friendship love. Like, I love my friends. Hey, man, I love you. That's a friendship love. And then there's agape, which is godly love. What's amazing, if you read this passage in Greek, in verse 3, it says, Lord, the one you storge. The one that you love, friendship love. 3 verses later, then the Bible says in verse 5, and now Jesus loved Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. It doesn't use storge, it uses agape. So in other words, if you read this in Greek, I love Jesus at this level. But when I talk about the love he has for me, it is not the love I have for him. It is a heavenly love. It is a godly love. Friend, I'd like to submit to you today, when we come to the resurrected Jesus, you should be reminded not how much you love him, but how much he loves you, how much he cares for you, how much he is seeking you. Because if the weight of your faith is based off how much you love him, it's going to be a roller coaster for the rest of your life. But if you would base your faith on his love for you, it is constant, it is stable, it is true, it is faithful. He loves you. For those of you that don't know, me and Julie, my wife, we have 3 kids, and my youngest one will be turning 4, I can't believe it, in September. He'll be 4, and he's learning this thing called emotions right now. Like the words love and dislike and hate, and I don't want that. And whenever he wants to say, he's like, I don't like that. And he turns like that. And I think he's figuring out that, like, when he cuddles up to me and puts like his little head right here, and he starts saying this because he's a manipulator. He'll come up here and he goes like, he has a lisp right now, and I hope it never goes away. He goes, Daddy, I love you so much. And then I go, I'll buy you whatever. And everyone's always like, Daddy, I love you. I love you, Daddy. And right now it's, I love you more than mommy. That's a fact. I love you more than mommy. Thank you, son. And the other day, my oldest son, who will be 12 here this fall, he went after I got home from work, and it's been a long day, and he's like, Dad, I want to go to the batting cage. And I was like, son, we just can't do it today. He's like, Dad, please. Buddy, we can't go today. He's like, please, I got to go to the batting cage. I have a big game tomorrow. Like what, scouts are going to be there or something? So I have a big game tomorrow, Dad. I'm like, dude, we can't go to the batting cage today. And my son said this last week. I was like, why would we go to the batting cage? He's like, because you love me. And guess where we went? You see, when we're children, like a 4-year-old, we want to remind God how much we love him. God, I love you. Look how much I love you. See how much I tithe? I love you. See how often I go to church? I love you. Say, I'm at Easter, Lord, I love you. Friend, when you grow in the faith, so should your perspective of love. I'm not basing my faith on God for how much I love him, because I'm a fickle being. But if we could start appealing to the heart of God, hey, God, I know how much you love me, so I need you to step into this scenario. I need you to fix this thing, because God, I know you love me. I'm aware of your love for me, God. That's why 1 John 4 says, we love him because he first loved us. Look what Timothy Keller says months before he passed away from cancer. Look at this. It's a longer quote, but you should hear it. Timothy Keller says this: the gospel is that I am so sinful that Jesus had to die for me, yet so loved and valued that Jesus gladly died for me. This leads to deep humility and deep confidence at the same time. I can't feel superior to anyone and yet have nothing to prove to anyone. To be loved but not known is superficial. To be known but not loved is our nightmare. Only Jesus knows us to the bottom and loves us to the sky. For the gospel says you are simultaneously more sinful and flawed than you have ever dared to believe, and yet more loved and accepted than you've ever dared to hope. For this is the gospel. I was so sinful that he had to die for me, but I was also so loved that he wanted to die for me. So now I have nothing to prove to you because I'm already chosen. I have nothing to win for you because I'm already forgiven. And yet I have been so loved because I need to be reminded, and so does the resurrection. It reminds me how loved I am. C.S. Lewis says this: God will allow us to feel the frailty of human love so we will appreciate the strength of his. Friend, every one of us in this room have been let down by another person's love. Because humans' love is frail and fickle. And many times we can feel the frailty of the love sitting behind you or next to you, and it comes and reminds us how strong and steady his love is. The first thing I want you to see today is that the resurrection shows me how loved I am. Number 2, let's jump to verse 17. On his arrival, Jesus found Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Can everyone say 4 days? Remember that, 4 days. And now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Mary and Martha to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed home. Verse 21, Lord, Martha said, if you had been here, my brother would have never died. But I know that even now God would give you whatever you ask. And Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Verse 24, Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. And here we go, here's our phrase. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. And the one who believes in me will live even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she replied. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world. The second thing I want you to see today is not only does the resurrection show me how much I am loved, the resurrection shows me the power of God. The power of God. Now, why in the world does the Bible want us to know that he's been dead for 4 days? Not one day. He didn't just die a few moments ago. He's not been dead for 2 days. He's not been dead for a week. He's been dead for 4 days. Why does that matter? Well, in the ancient world and in the first century that Jesus is living in, people would get sick all the time. Of course, there wasn't medicine, hospitals, all the stuff that we have now. And so people would have, really sick things that happen to their body, and they would fall into comas or be very sick. And so people would give them 3 days to get better. So they'd lay him in a tomb, they'd lay him in the back of their house and see if their body would catch up. They'd see if they were just sick, if they were just out of it, if their body would bounce back. On the fourth day, the mourning would start, because on day 4, they officially would announce this person is dead and not coming back. And so Jesus, the Bible says, is only 2 miles away, friends. That's not far. That's from here to our building. Jesus could have come on day 1, but he did not. Jesus could have came on day 2, but he did not. Jesus, in his God knowledge, waited until day 4 to show up. Why? Because he needed humans to admit there's no hope. He needed people to say nothing can be done. He needed people to write off that Lazarus could not come back from the dead. And so Jesus waits until everybody says, it's finished, it's over, nothing can happen. And that's the day that Jesus decides to show up on and say, you guys think it's over? It's my turn. You guys have written Lazarus off. You say nothing can happen. It is my turn. And look at what they say back when Jesus finally gets there. Look what they say. Mary and Martha say, if you would have just been here. Notice, they believed in his power in their time frame. They did not say, well, what are you going to do now, Jesus? You have no power here, Jesus. They go, hey, if you would have just been on time, you could have done it. How many times have we told God that? If you would have just shown up when I was 25, not 35, God. You're a bit late, aren't you, Jesus? I'm 58 now. This has been really helpful at 42. And what? Many times we believe in God's power. We believe in the power of Jesus, but in our time, in our framework, and when we wanted him. And Jesus shows up and says, I am the resurrection. But notice what she says. No, I believe he'll be resurrected on the last day. And Jesus says, oh, I am the resurrection. In other words, our faith is not in a destination. Our faith is in a person. Our faith is not in a day. Our faith is not in a moment. Our faith is a man, and his name is Jesus. And he says, I am the resurrection. You see, Jesus, when he shows up, the sisters had faith, but hear me, they fourth day God. Jesus, it's the fourth day. How often in my life and how often in your life do you fourth day God? Well, Jesus, if you'd have showed up on day 1, you could have done it. Jesus, even day 3, my guy, you could have done it. But day 4, Jesus, I don't think you have day 4 power. Jesus, it's over. It's been buried. I put it in the tomb. I rolled a rock over it. Jesus, it's over. But Jesus come to remind us on Resurrection Sunday, I have the power over fourth day things. Though you might think it's over, I have the power. Though you have written it off, I have the power. Though you have buried it, I have the power. Though you have written it off, I have the power. I created days. They did not create me. I have the power over days. Friend, let us not fourth day God and say, man, Jesus, you're a bit late. Time does not own him. He owns time. And there's many people in the room today living in the fourth day right now. Like, well, Jesus, if you would have done this last Easter, I would have had more faith. Jesus, if you'd have done it when I was younger, I would have trusted more. But this Easter, Jesus, it's kind of a fourth day Easter for me. And Jesus shows up to your life late. It takes a mature believer to thank God for his lateness. He's late. Not day 1, not day 2, not day 3, day 4. It takes a mature believer to thank God when he said no. You ever had this happen yet? When you pray for something and you feel like God says no and you're angry at him, and then 6 months go by and you go, man, I'm so thankful he said no. Man, I'm thankful he let that job pass me by. That business is gone now. I'm thankful that girl said no to the date because she passed me by and found someone else. I'm thankful that job said no because a better one showed up. It takes a mature believer to thank God for the lateness of his presence. Because oftentimes when he's late, he's there on purpose to show you, I have all the power you need. The resurrection shows us the power of God. A month before Timothy Keller died of pancreatic cancer, he said this in an interview. Knowing they gave him weeks to live. He looks frail. He's about to pass, and he says this in an interview. He says, if Jesus rose from the dead, then you have to accept all that he said. If he didn't rise from the dead, then why worry about anything he said? The issue on which everything hangs is not whether or not you like his teaching, but whether or not he rose from the dead. And this is what he says at the end of the interview, weeks before he passes. If the resurrection is true, then everything's going to be all right. If the resurrection's true, then everything's going to be all right. But if Jesus didn't rise, we are the most foolish people on this planet. We are fools this morning gathering if Jesus did not resurrect from the dead. We are aimless in the dark if Jesus did not raise from the dead. It is not the bloody cross that sets him apart. It is the empty tomb that sets him apart. It is that he was dead, was buried in a tomb, but death could not hold him. The only job death has is to keep people, and Jesus took its job. The only thing death can do is keep people dead. But not this Jesus. He resurrects and he says, now I hold the power to the death and grave of every soul, and I have all power unto my name. Why? Because today we serve the great I am. If you are wandering through darkness, he is the light of the world. You don't have to stumble your way anymore. If you are hungry this morning, he is the bread of life. You can find satisfaction this morning. If you are barren and you are trying to find fruit in your life, he is the fruit of this world. He is the vine that you find fruit in. If you are weary this morning, he is the good shepherd. He is the one that protects us. And if you are in the grave this morning, he is the resurrection, the life that you and I have. We serve this morning, not the dead God. That's why he has no gravesite. You can go rub the feet of Buddha. You can go rub the feet of Muhammad. You can go to grave sites of the men and women that you worship. But friend, there is no gravesite. There is no tomb. There is no date when he left the earth. When he died, he's resurrected. Why? Because the resurrection of this Jesus, it shows me his power. You see, friend, I don't just want to have faith in Christ. I want the faith of Christ. Philip Yancey says this: in many aspects, I find the unresurrected Jesus easier to accept. Easter makes him dangerous. Because of Easter, I have to listen to his extravagant teachings. See, if he just died and lived a good life and died for me, that would have been good enough, yeah? But no, he did not just die. He resurrected. And now because of the resurrection of Jesus, I trust his claims, and now I see the power of Jesus. You see, friend, this weekend is a 3-day weekend for you and I. Not just because it's a 3-day weekend. I mean, we start with Good Friday, and we have Silent Saturday, and then we have Resurrection Sunday. I want to submit to you today, I don't care what day you're living in, Sunday is coming. Maybe you're in Good Friday right now and death is all around you and businesses are failing and people are walking out and you feel like you're about to be put in the tomb and everything is dying and everything is going down to the left, not up and to the right. You're like, man, today is Good Friday. That's okay. Sunday is coming. Maybe you're in Saturday. God has gone silent. God has gone distant. You're like, I can't hear him. I don't know where he is. I don't understand his voice. The whole thing is silent. I get it. Silent Saturday is real, but Sunday is coming. You see, friends, that's why in the early church, they used to do church on Saturday. You know this, yeah? The Jewish community used to do church on Saturday, but once he resurrected, they're like, we can't do church on Saturday any longer. We must do church on Sunday now because we don't live from death. We don't live from silence. We live from life. And so let us celebrate not on Good Friday, not on Silent Saturday, but let us have church on Easter Sunday because we live from life. The second thing I want you to see is that the resurrection shows me his power. The third thing I want you to see, let's jump down to verse 38. Are we okay so far? It's going to get gooder. Verse 38. Jesus has showed up. Mary and Martha have talked to him. They both said the same phrase. If he were here, he wouldn't have died. In verse 38, look what he says. Jesus, once more, deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. Look at, take away the stone, he said. But Lord, said Martha, the sister of the dead man, by this time there's going to be a bad odor, for he's been dead again for 4 days. Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you've heard me. I know that you've always heard me, but I say this for the benefit of them standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." Verse 43, when Jesus said this, look at this. Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." The dead man came out with his hands and his feet wrapped with strips of linen and cloth around his face. And Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." The third thing I want you to see is the resurrection calls me out by name. See, Jesus, if he would have just said, "Dead, come forth," every dead person would have came out because he has the power over every name. But Jesus knew he could not just say, "Dead man, come forth." He had to say the man's name. "Lazarus, I tell you to come forth." Friend, this is when salvation takes place, when you hear God say your name. Salvation doesn't come when I tell you I'm praying for your name. I hear your name being called. I hear God calling you. No, salvation doesn't pierce the heart. Salvation doesn't move your spirit when you hear me call your name, or your spouse call your name, or your sister pray your name. No, something happens, friend, when you hear Jesus say your name. My prayer today, friends, no if and buts about it. If you are not saved today, you came with your neighbor, I pray you hear your name called today. If you came just to make your spouse appeased for the day, I pray you hear your name called today. Because there is nothing like hearing God call your name, which means he knows you. He does not just know you, he knows your name. Jesus shows up to the tomb and he says, "Lazarus, come forth," or "come out." Two phrases that I was going to do an entire sermon on these two phrases, but I didn't leave the rest of it out. It's too good. But there's two phrases that have just been jumping out to me. Number one, he shows up and he knows where Lazarus is. But look, he says, "Where's Lazarus?" They go, "He's in the tomb and the stone has been rolled." He says, "Take him out." And they go, "Jesus, he's going to smell real bad. It's been 4 days." And Jesus says, "Roll the stone away." Friend, why didn't Jesus just go roll the stone away? He made them do it. Because even in the work of God, you have a part to play. You see, you can't awaken the dead, but Jesus won't roll your stone away. He shows up and says, "Hey, I'll do my job, you do yours. I'll raise the dead, you be obedient. You roll the stone away." You see, we're in the business of rolling stones away. Jesus is in the business of resurrecting the dead. But look what happens. They took the thing they thought was dead and they buried it. And before resurrection could happen, they had to roll the stone away. There are people in the room today, and I feel this deeply have all week. There's some things that you need to roll the stone away from. So Jesus, just do it. All right, resurrect my marriage, resurrect my life, resurrect my relationships, resurrect my business, resurrect me. God, I'm in a dead season, resurrect me. Jesus is like, "I will," but roll the stone away. Because rolling the stone away is the first step of faith and revealing where you've hid it. There's somebody in the room today, you've buried some stuff this year. You've buried some dreams. You've buried some people. You've buried some relationships. You've buried some money. You've buried some jobs. You've buried some ideas. You've buried some parts of yourself. You've buried some things within your soul. You said, "This thing will never live. Let me bury it. Let me just roll the stone away. This area of my life, that relationship, this idea, that dream," you've buried it. And Jesus is showing up to your life today saying, "Where is it? Where have you put it?" Well, it's in the tomb. Roll the stone away. In other words, you have to let God in. Because many Christians want God to resurrect the things that you won't roll away. Notice the stone being rolled away happened before the resurrection came. What grave? See, some of you don't have things in the grave today. You are in the grave today. You feel dead. You feel like time has passed. You feel like your soul is weary and gone. You used to feel alive, you used to feel awakened, but you have gone asleep. Furthermore, and I know this might be a bit much, but some of you are so far away from Jesus that money is not going to make you feel alive. Jesus is. You see, the resurrection some of you need in this room, it's called salvation. It's the life of God within your soul. But you have to roll the grave away. So you have to roll the stone away for him to step into your grave. What grave do you need to be called out of today? And then looks what happened. This slapped me in the face this week. Lazarus, come out. And he starts walking. Look what he says though. The Bible says he walks out with linens wrapped. And a scarf over his face, linens over his face. And this phrase has been in my soul for days. Jesus says, Lazarus, come out. He walks out. Then he says, take off the grave clothes. Some of you today, you've come out of your tomb, but you're still walking and living like you're still in it. And today's the day you need to decide in your heart, decide in your spirit. Today's the day you need to take those grave clothes off. You've come out. You're not dead any longer. You've been living. But take the grave clothes off. Hear me. Let me ask you a question. Are you more grave informed or resurrection informed? How informed are you? When Jesus calls you out, he doesn't just call you out of your grave. When you start walking to him, he also tells you to walk out and take off your grave clothes. Because what can happen, hear me, we can be in a grave for so long that even when God brings you out, you still act like you're in it. This was my heart. This was my feeling for today, that many of you, it's time for you to pick your head up and look around and go, it is better. I've been out of this grave for a long time. I've been out of the grave for some days and some hours. I've been out, but you still think you're in. And you're still acting like you're still in the grave because you haven't taken your grave clothes off yet. Today is a very prophetic day for many of you, not just to come out of the grave, but to take your grave clothes off. Because I don't want to be more grave informed than I am resurrection informed. Because this is what happens. If you still think you're in the tomb, you keep making tomb decisions. But you're not in the tomb. You are living. You've been called out by name. The fourth thing I want you to see. Verse 28 to 37. Verse 28 says, after she said this, she went back and called her sister aside. The teacher's here, she said, and he's asking for you. When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but still was at the place where Mary and Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house were comforting her, noticed how quickly she got up and went out. They followed her, supposing she was going to go to the tomb to mourn there. When Jesus reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, again, if you had been here, my brother would have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in the spirit, and he was troubled. Where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, my Lord. Verse 35, the shortest verse in all the Bible, and Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, you see how he loved him? But some of them said, could not he who opened the eyes of the blind have not kept this man from dying? The fourth thing I want you to see is that the resurrection shows me how to live in the tension. How to live in the tension. Friend, not to insult your intelligence, but Jesus is God, which means he knows what's going to happen. He knows what he's about to do. He already said it a few verses later. Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. It will be for the glory of God. Jesus knows that he's going to resurrect Lazarus, and he shows up and he sees Martha weeping, and he sees Mary weeping. And then the Bible says in verse 35 that Jesus starts weeping, and he's deeply moved on the behalf of his friends. I always asked, why? Why are you crying? You know you're going to resurrect him. Why don't you just show me, hey, stop crying, watch this? No. He doesn't tell him to shut it down. Why are you crying? Watch what I'm going to do. He goes, I see you. Because the resurrection of God shows us how to live in the tension of Friday and Sunday. Jesus knows he's going to resurrect Lazarus, but he still lives in the moment. Because for many of us, you know what it means to be a Christian, to serve Jesus? It's learning how to be in the tension between Friday and Sunday. Because just because Sunday is coming doesn't mean Fridays aren't real. And we have to hold the tension between the death of things and weeping and also knowing that God's going to fix it. Because Jesus still knows the future, yet he understands the present. Again, Timothy Keller says this: when Jesus Christ was in the Garden of Gethsemane and the ultimate darkness was coming down on him and he knew it was coming, he didn't abandon you. He died for you. Feel this today. If Jesus Christ didn't abandon you in his darkness, why would he abandon you now in yours? You see, for you and I now, we know heaven is coming, but we still live here. And it is a foolish Christian to say that we should not weep because we know heaven's real. Yes, heaven is coming. Yes, he will right every wrong. Yes, he will wipe every tear, but yet it's still real. And I'm still here, and it still hurts. And what the resurrection does is it helps me live in tension of Lazarus dying, yet resurrection is right around the corner. And we hold these two in the middle. In other words, Jesus had the sour wine of Friday so that you and I could have the sweet wine of Sunday. The Bible says that one of the last things he did before he died is he had sour wine. And so now because Jesus tastes the sour wine, you and I get to taste the new wine of Sunday. Because the thing that the resurrection does is it takes the taste of death away. For many of humans, by the way, this is why death is so hard for us to process when loved ones pass, because we were never made to taste that meal. We were made to live for forever. And so that's why you will never acquire a palate for death, because it was a meal you were never made to taste. And it's always hard when God doesn't show up how we want him to, and it seems like it's the fourth day and God is late, but we know the resurrection has changed everything. We know the life of Jesus has changed everything. We know that heaven is coming. We know that one day eternity will come into the now. We know that one day every tear will be wiped. I know that one day Jesus is going to come back. I know, but also Friday is so real, and now I have to learn how to be in the middle of these two things and hold two truths in the same hand. Friend, the resurrection has changed everything. If Jesus stayed in the grave, we are the most foolish humans and wasting a Sunday morning when we could be golfing. We could be doing many other things this morning. So if he did not raise from the dead, we are fools. But if he did, and he has, it has and will change everything. So today we have come not to worship the dead God. We have come not to worship the bloody cross. Today we've come to worship. Today we've come to celebrate. Today we've come to magnify. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain, but now he has resurrected, and now he's seated on the right hand of the Father. And because he has resurrected, everything's going to be okay. Oh, Friday is painful, but I know Sunday is coming. Yeah, Friday has brought tears, but I know Sunday is coming. And now because of the resurrection, I can live in the tension of Good Friday and Resurrection Sunday. I can live between these two worlds because I know that Jesus has resurrected.